Dear distinguished guests, scientists, and all of you, in the context of the COVID pandemic, many economic and cultural activities has been stagnated. One heritage sites, including UNESCO recognized heritage sites, are in danger of being destroyed. Etsy, tangible and tangible cultural activities, generous activities, beliefs, traditional and contemporary festivals have been delayed or cancelled. The lives of community on almost every continent have been turned upside down and seriously affected, and the preservation and promotion of cultural venues have been difficult. Overcoming this situation, many countries around the world have relied on the power of digital technologies to operate cultural, economic, and political activity that bring practical results. In the field of the culture on social network, we see many inspiration, cultural presentation, and visual video of the culture's lovers, famous artists, and musicians in the world presenting and performing in form of online has a profound impact on netizens and attracting a lot of flowers responses in Vietnam. The application of digital technologies in preserving and promoting cultural heritage shows its superiority and effectiveness beyond expectations. In the museum, there are virtual museum, virtual galleries using virtual reality technology to preserve and promote the intangible cultures of Vietnamese ethnic groups. 3D and 4D movies, automatic interpretation system. The heritage data system is connected, shared, and attractive that makes cultural heritage more and more pervasive. However, the applications of cultural heritage more and more pervasive. However, the application of technology is next synchronized and attractive that has made digital heritage education has not yet connected to a large number of individual, community, and organizations, requiring the cooperations of many people and organizations, especially those who love cultural heritage for many years. The museums of the cultures of Vietnam's ethnic groups has been accompanied by informative companies, especially with human-machine interaction laboratory, the University of Engineering and Technology, Vietnam National University, Hanoi, and the Thái Nguyên University of Technology build and upgrade the interactive software, digital audio supporting some display complexes. Virtual museums, research and applications of multimedia technology in preserving and promoting intangible cultural venues of Vietnam's ethnic group. This software has been operated effectively in data management in introduction to the community. Many artifacts are modeled in 3D through storing full information for researching and sizing. The database also makes exhibits at the museum richer, more diverse and unique. Museum staff as the public can learn and transmit intangible cultural values when looking at them, helping the culture to spread to the community more and more. Generalizing the effects of digital technology. Today, the Museum of Cultures of Vietnam Ethnic Group is very pleased with the units of DPECH Group to organize the seminar on digital to preservation and education of cultural heritage, Asian and European. DPECH is a working group in the fields of digital preservation and education of cultural heritage. Its co-founders would want to connect people from diverse backgrounds in different areas in the world to form meaningful collaborations and initiatives to make cultural heritage more alive in the society with the help of digital technologies. Hopefully, in this online seminar, we can share and exchange experiences in applying digital technology, in preserving and promoting Asian European cultural heritage to friends worldwide. After seminar, members of DPECH team continue to connect people from countries around the world, joining hands in digital heritage, education, and promoting Asian European cultural heritage, developing heritage tourism products in the directions of digitization to spread traditional cultural values in the current global pandemic. On this occasion, on behalf of the board and of the board of organization, I would like to express my sincere thanks to distinguished guests representing schools, universities, organizations, and individuals, research institutes, non-governmental organizations, scientists, together with you spending the time on paying attention and attending this event today. Wishing all of you good health and happiness. Wishing the seminar great success. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Nguyễn Thị Ngân, Director of the Museum of Ethnic Cultures of Vietnam in Thái Nguyên. Yeah, and hello everyone. It is our great pleasure to meet you at the seminar DPECH AEP today. And we would want to thank the Museum of Ethnic Cultures of Vietnam in Thái Nguyên and also the collaborating institutions, for example, SMI Lab, or the Vietnam Japan University, or Egina and Craig Lab to collaborate on organizing this seminar. And thank you every presenters, thank you every participants for attending in this exchange. And firstly, I would want to to have a few words to introduce with you about the DPECH working group. And it is a DPECH which combines some people who are working in the field of digital cultural heritage. Until from Egina, Lynn from Egina, and Paulo Russo from Craig Hub, and Ha from HMI Lab, and Lê from Vietnam Japan University, and Ms. Duyên from HMI Lab, and Dr. Ngân from the Museum of Ethnic Cultures of Vietnam. Yeah, and the DPECH seminar, it will be our first initiative to connect people in the field. Yeah, and yeah, now I would want to introduce Anteo, and maybe Anteo also will say something to introduce himself to you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, please.
Thank you very much, Stanley, and welcome everyone. It's my great pleasure to be here today representing EGINA, the European Grants International Academy. After several months, we are achieving these great results of collaboration with the University of Vietnam and a Japanese university, and I'm very glad because here today I'm representing both EGINA and Europeana, which is the European Archive for Cultural Heritage. I will tell something more later on. Thanks to all the organization, also from my side, and I hope this is the beginning of a very nice journey for sharing and working together in the preservation of cultural heritage in Asia and Europe.
Yeah, thank you, Anteo. And now we would want to go to the first session of the seminar. It is entitled Digital Preservation and Education of Cultural Heritage, Vietnam and Asian Perspective. And as you know, now we've sent the document to all and in this seminar, we are just inviting the presenters to recap the presentation in 2 minutes. And after the first session, you will, at the end of the session, you are going to have a general discussion. And yeah, firstly, I would want to introduce the first presentation. Vietnam National University, Hanoi, UET's Human Machine Interaction Laboratory with Vietnamese Heritage, Digitization and Promotion. And the presentation is by Professor Assist. The presentation is done by Associate Professor Lê Thanh Hà, Head of the HMI Lab. Yeah, welcome, Associate Professor Lê Thanh Hà.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I have only 2 minutes, so I should be very fast. I hope that all of you may see my video before. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
So yeah, could you please for the next slides? So very short of my my laboratory, HMI. H stands for human, M for motion, I interaction. So in here we have 4 working groups. You can see in the picture. And we are building the model and algorithm for the target business. For this time is humanity and the heritage. Next slide, please. So in lab, we have some devices, especially for the digitization of the heritage. For motion capture, we have ESEN, MS Kinetic, and also we have the very high resolution 3D camera like this. And we have a system for high performance computer for data processing and rendering. And for next slide, please. So along with some project funded by our government, funded by Europe, funded by the private sector, we have built some product item. Some of them are data set for the intangible and cultural heritage. Some of them for teaching support system. One of them is for preservation and promotion system for intangible heritage. And also we have an application for virtual reality for Vietnamese heritage. And by this time, I want to highlight our ongoing project related with the promotion of Nguyen Dynasty printing wood blocks. So in this project, we are going to use the artificial intelligence for heritage construction. So as you may see, our main purpose is for the digital data of heritage. So based on the digital data heritage, we can build AI model to learn the properties of targeted heritage items. So based on this model, we can reconstruct the original. We can do something to recover the originals, to this or to increase, to improve the quality of investments. For example, you can see in the picture, we have in Vietnamese we have wood blocks. So some of them have lost forever, but we still have its printing version. So we are going to use the data, the scanned data of other wood printing wood block to reconstruct the lost wood block. You can see that, and you can from this picture. So I try to recap my my presentation in video in just 1 minute or 2. Is that enough?
Yeah. Thank you, Associate Professor Ha. In the video, you introduced a lot of works that HMI Lab has done with digitization of Vietnamese cultural heritage. Yeah, and this is just a recap. And would anyone have questions for Mr. Ha and HMI Lab? Please, yeah. You can use the microphone and the camera and ask questions directly, and also type in the chat box as well. Thank you.
Okay, then maybe still you can use the chat at any time for asking question. We will proceed now. I have the pleasure to introduce the second presenter, Sofiani, Project Officer and Communication Officer at the ASEAN Cultural Heritage Digital Archive, and Gladys Esti Waidi Respati. She will introduce and recap on her presentation about the introduction to the ASEAN Cultural Heritage Digital Archive. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much.
Hello.
So my name is Sofiani. I'm from the ASEAN Secretariat. Later on, my colleague Gladys will also share a little bit more. Hopefully, 2 minutes is enough. So I'm here to present about the ASEAN Cultural Heritage Digital Archive. This is one of the projects under the ASEAN Secretariat. The idea is to celebrate the richness and also the diverse culture heritage that ASEAN have. So basically what we do is we go to, the stakeholders are, of course, there are us, the ASEAN Secretariat. We lead the project. We work closely with the senior official meeting for culture and art because this is project under culture. So we work closely with Ministry of Culture in 10 ASEAN member countries. And this project is implemented by Entity Data, a company from Japan. And this project is possible because of the support from Government of Japan through Japan ASEAN Integration Fund. Next. So this is a long-term project. At first, we planned it to be executed in 6 years, but however, due to the ongoing pandemic, there are several things need to be postponed. But luckily, we have successfully implemented the first phase in 3 countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand, from February 2018 to March 2021. Now we are in phase 2. We are working closely with Cambodia and Myanmar, and hopefully if there is no problem next year, we can work with Laos, PDR, and Vietnam, of course. And in the last phase, it will be the rest of the IMS country, which are Brunei, Singapore, and Philippines. Next. So in the first phase, beside digitizing the heritage item from Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand, we also successfully developed the platform, the online platform, where the heritage item can be accessed by public. Previous slide, please. Yes, so and we launched the website in February 2020. So now if you type heritage.asean.org, you can see all the effort that we have done. Next. Of course, beside digitizing the heritage item and then also put it on the website, we also need to promote it better so public can see what we have done and they can appreciate ASEAN heritage. For this part, my colleague Gladys Respati will explain more. Please, Gladys.
Thank you, Sophie. Just to quickly recap, so through the ACHDA project, ASEAN aims to promote awareness on ASEAN heritage and history to foster ASEAN identity and a greater sense of belonging among ASEAN citizens. And to do so, we are conducting many promotional activities to get as many people as possible to come and see our digitized collection on the ACHD website. So our main promotional activities that you can look forward to within the next half of 2021 and early 2022 are the ACHD blog, 3 e-exhibitions on the ACHD website, and webinars with the e-exhibition guest curators who will be the resource persons. Next slide, please. Okay. To stay updated on the latest news on ACHDA and any updates on new collections, new participating institutions, please do follow ASEAN CSEI on our social media handles on the screen. Okay. That ends our short recap. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gladys, Ms. Gladys and Ms. Sofiani from ASEAN Secretariat. And I would want to invite the next presentation, Digitizing Vietnamese Art and Culture, Digital Preservation for Cultural Promotion and Education by Ms. Emma Duester and Ms. Michael Tisch. Emma Duester is a lecturer at the School of Communication and Design, IMIT University Vietnam, and Michael Tisch, if I spell right, associate lecturer in design at IMIT University Vietnam. So please have the recap. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting us to present. And yes, I'm here to really present about a research project that we're doing at RMIT University in Hanoi. And the project is running now. It's been running since January 2020 and will continue until December this year. And we're really researching the current state of digitization of art and culture in Vietnam, but Hanoi specifically. So we're interviewing cultural professionals and artists, both at state museums, non-profit art organizations, and commercial galleries to get a sense of what they're doing in terms of digitizing art and culture, how they're preserving it, but also promoting it and displaying it online and making it more accessible for their audience. And we're working with 2 industry partners, Matka Space of Photography in Hanoi and the Vietnamese Women's Museum, which is also in Hanoi. Next slide, please. And yes, we've really been seeing and understanding this need for accessibility and public engagement of art and culture in Hanoi, but also more broadly across Vietnam. So we found that, of course, a lot of digitization projects are taking place at state museums, but a lot of this work is for preservation and for archiving. And so we've noticed that this connection needs more work, the one that's sort of between actually making it accessible, publishing it online, and in exciting, innovative ways for the new sort of generation of art lovers, both nationally and internationally. So with that, I would like to go to the next slide and pass over to my colleague who's also part of this research project, Michelle.
Thanks, Emma. So at RMIT, we've been really asking ourselves the question is how can we support contemporary arts and the cultural ecosystem in Vietnam? So we've been looking specifically at how we can integrate it into courses. So it can be as clients or guest speakers. So for example, the Vietnamese Women's Museum, we've been working with their collection and looking at ways of how it can be promoted to a younger audience through courses that we have that are called Modern Asia and another course called Art Direction. We've also previously worked with the National Archives 3 to look at are tasked with developing concepts for how to engage a younger audience with the GLAM sector and their collections and their organisations. So it means often that they're looking at technologies or social media in a different way to what has been done traditionally. Next slide, please. So part of the action research that we've initiated, which has been based on the research project, is RMIT has had since 2019, we initiated the Vietnam Festival of Creativity and Design. And one of the main goals was to kind of raise the esteem or the perception of the contemporary arts and cultural sector. And we've been working with UNESCO and VICAS with events such as Future Proof, which was a seminar, panel discussions. And we also we have a really good collection of contemporary Vietnamese art, which we had as an online and an offline exhibition, again, in response to COVID, and looking at how could we engage with the community in a wider way? And also the 2021 is in progress in planning. Currently also too, we have work integrated learning programs, which we refer to as WIL. So our digital media program is working on a pilot to make the collection that we have much more accessible and interactive in experience for the public. And what we're looking to is take these pilots and these experiences and to be able to assist with other organisations that would like to incorporate these activities. So particularly with Andres, who our colleague will be talking about his photogrammetry project with the Vietnamese Women's Museum, which is helping to make technology accessible and more easily scalable for different organisations. So next slide, please. Okay, and so if you'd like to contact us, there's the contact for Dr. Emma Duster and myself, Michelle Teague. And we also have some future projects coming up in terms of looking at to make content more accessible using platforms like Wikipedia, but having an editathon that we're looking at doing, and also looking at having a contemporary visual art and contemporary design archive in Vietnam so that we can use it for when we're working as educators with students in Vietnam. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Emma Duester and Ms. Michelle Tiger. Your work looks very impressive, and I'm sure that you are getting a lot of comments later. Yeah, and please, we may move to the next presentation.
Yeah, let me just comment that I probably apply for the work integrated learning program. It seems to be very interesting. Compliments. Yeah, I think that has been already introduced. Andres Thuy, Associate Lecturer from RMIT University, Vietnam, with a presentation on digitizing artifacts at Vietnamese Women's Museum with photogrammetry. Please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Andres. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this seminar. I hope you have looked at the video presentation. So basically, one of RMIT Vietnam's project with the Vietnamese Women's Museum is to digitize artifacts into 3D models. We know that recently, everybody have moved online because we don't have a choice. It's one of the platforms that we can actually share and distribute what we want to talk about and show. But the problem is every time when there is a technology concern involved, right? People are very concerned because it's something new. Basically, number one, it's too technical or too difficult to learn, apply, and train. So, I mean, if we are from the technical background, right, it's quite feasible. We can understand, but people who are not, they tend to be afraid of how things are going to work. And of course, the second thing is budget, right? So people are always afraid that money is involved. But the thing is, what we did was at RMIT, we tried to give them a solution which is approachable in a way that it basically breaks the boundary of technical understanding. I mean, you still have to know a bit of technical, but at the same time also we try to use what is available and try to cut down on the budget, right? So if you have a look at here, the practical solutions on the slide here, right? We basically suggest use available hardware and tools. So for example, to do digitization, of course you can have like 3D scanners and expensive cameras, but with the current cameras itself, the mobile phone cameras itself, you can actually take photos and digitize photos at a decent, good quality. The other thing is the software that we use are also free and open source software that are available everywhere in the scientific community where you can actually use. So we have come to a point where this software is available for all of us, and also we have hardware that is within your house. The other thing is also we also try to propose the least technical process because when we try to train staff in the museum, right, we don't want them to be intimidated. The idea of converting, scanning or digitizing photographs into 3D object is good, but they are, they might be afraid, and staff who are not technical might be afraid. So we propose the least technical process to give them the confidence, and they're able to learn, replicate, and train the staff in the future. So basically what happens is they can do it within, I'm not saying that they are doing it fully in a way that they still need some support, but they have a chance and their confidence to do it by themselves. So we right now, since it's the pandemic, we still give them support when needed through chats, through some video conferencing, and they are able to do it, and we support on our side. And these files, since they're digital, we can actually send it to each other, and we can help each other out, and I can give them support through online. All right, can we get, and yes, of course, we use the least possible budget possible. All right, next slide. Okay, so these are the things that we use, right? So basically, if you don't have a DSLR camera, right, like I mentioned earlier on, you can use mobile phones. And after that, we've got photogrammetry software. The ones that we are using is called Mushroom. It's free and open source. You've got other software that you can use as well. And also there's 3D modeling software we are using, which is Blender 3D. We use this to clean up certain 3D models that because if not after the scanning process, right, not everything will look like perfect. So you need to clean that up in a 3D modeling software. And basically what happens is if you have a powerful computer, the process is going to take faster. But if you don't have a powerful computer, it's still okay. You can still run the process and convert photograph to 3D models. You just have to let the computer run overnight. And the next day when you come, you'll be able to see your models. And then finally, what we do is these 3D models can be hosted on servers. The services that we are using here, right, is called Sketchfab at the moment, but there are other alternatives that are free as well that we can actually host 3D models. So once the 3D models are online, users can interact, zoom, rotate, and read annotation on the 3D models. That's what we've been doing here so far. Thank you very much. Next slide. So yeah, so if you have any questions that you want to ask, you can direct it to me through the chats or through video. And also, if you would like to know more, you can always write to me at my email here. And also, I basically facilitate the mixed reality lab in RMIT Vietnam in Saigon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andres, and compliment for the very nice work you're carrying out.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I would want to introduce the next presentation, collaborative digital autoethnography as inclusive mode of knowing the Kachin Life Stories project. And it is presented by Dr. Stan B.H. Stan Thangbo, independent researcher in Singapore. Welcome, Dr. Stan.
Thank you, Dr. Leng. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you clearly.
All right, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Leng and the organizers for inviting me to share my research work here. It's very nice to see many familiar faces since I left Vietnam a year ago. Well, although I'm stated there as an independent researcher, I'm actually a full-time stay-at-home dad nowadays. It's been more than a year since I've taken on this role, and it's very nice to be involved in online conferences once in a while. So let me begin my recap, slightly different from what I put down over there after listening to the opening speech and the presentation by different presenters earlier. I think for such a project on the digital and archiving, preservation, etc., it is very, very important that we hang on a minute. It is very, very important that we make pretty clear or differentiate certain concepts that drive the way we talk about the digital. From most of the talk that has been presented and will be presented today, quite a number focus on the process of digitization, which is the encoding of data and documents for more efficient use, for wider use, for preservation.
Yeah, it seems that we cannot hear you clearly now.
Talk about digitalization or research or for education.
Yeah.
Is it?
Stan, you're breaking up.
Yeah.
Is it better? Is it better now?
Yeah, now we can hear you, but the previous part, maybe you have to repeat for us. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I don't share video, I just it would be easier. The bandwidth might not be very good. Give me a minute, okay?
Yeah,
so let me restart. I think for such a project, it's very important that we are quite clear on the concepts. Quite a number of the projects presented or to be presented later talk about digitization, being the encoding of data and documents for preservation, for more efficient use. Some talk about digitalization, being the converting of your operating process or research process with the embracing of digital technology. Maybe a few, 2 to 3, talk about digital inclusion, which is about widening or universalizing digital literacy and digital access for wider participation by the general public. But very few here talk about digital equity, which is developing the capacity of the wider community, developing their capacity for full and meaningful participation in this digital process. And this is where Kachin Life Stories come in the sense that the Capture Life Stories as a collaborative digital autoethnography. You can read what I've written on the screen, so I will repeat that. It's a response against the funneling mode of knowing that we are also familiar with, that basically most of us are stuck with. Instead, Capture Life Stories implores us to work towards an inclusive mode of knowing. So what does this mean? Can we move to the next slide? Yes. So stay here, inclusive mode of knowing, where we turn subjects, or more commonly called research subjects, into individuals, into agents. We convert the asymmetrical relationship in the research process between researcher and subject, and activate a more nuanced participatory approach to, in my case, global storytelling. In your case, could be cultural preservation. And this is important in the sense that it allows participants to over time reflect and embrace their individual autoethnographic difference, but yet at the same time re-inform the larger whole about, for example, being an ethnic group, being a national community, being a particular vocational community. What makes this so fascinating for me personally is that, and professionally, is that it avails us to the massiveness and complexity of the lives that we actually live. Because think about it, every time we walk on the street, we go out to our field site, we think, oh, this place is like, there's so many things that we don't understand, so much complexity. But somehow we turn that into a certain reification that people can understand and analyze, and therefore make decisions, come up with policies which affect their lives, but yet they have very, very little participation in this whole process. So in other words, what I am encouraging everyone to think about when talking about digital is to be more inclusive in the way we construct, produce, and use knowledge. I think that's about it. Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Thank you, Dr. Stan. Yeah, it is an anthropological approach in the digital platform, and it is very interesting that people can contribute the content by themselves. Yeah, they do not have to do much work, but just reflect their life. Yeah, it sounds very interesting. Thank you, Dr. Stan. Yeah.
Here I am. Sorry, I thought I was unmuted. Okay, then we continue with Pam-Tin Thuy Kang. I hope I pronounced it well. Researcher at the Institute for Religious Studies, Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences, with a presentation on maximum and permanent conservation of cultural heritage basing on digital technology. You're welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving me the chance to present and discuss with you in this seminar. My presentation will focus on three main issues, that is the cultural heritage change and the role of traditional preservation, and building a maximized information database, and something about the digital preservation for sustainable development. I have 10 years of working for Vietnam Museum of Ethnology, and as my experience, I have learned that the heritage, actually the museum, Vietnam Museum of Ethnology has been known that is a museum who is very professional and scientific in traditional preservation. But in my paper, I mentioned two cases of heritage, that is the roundhouse of Bana people in the Central Mountains, and the Gangor or Nagabot of Khmer people in the south. And both of them are displayed in the open air exhibition of the museum. That means that they are facing to the risk of their mission of natural factors, and also the intangible factors also change very fast. the museum tried their best and made many efforts to preserve the heritage, but I found that the traditional way is very expensive and also laborious. For example, they invite the people from communities to the museum to repair the house, and also collect the materials from the local, very far from the museum, and it takes a long time and cost very much of money, but not clearly effective. Next, please. Yeah, and also intangible factors are very rich of the cultural heritage, but now they are changing. This is some image of the buffalo sacrifice in the central area, and in the case of Kengor, the boat, Naga boat. This is in this picture you can see the ritual, agricultural ritual associated with the object, with the boat, but now it's changing to the like the symbol of like a sport event. It's the attract crowd of people here, and also it made the change of the shape of the boat and discourse about the boat also. Next, please. The solution that I suggest, we should building the digital profile of maximum database, including the text and photos and recording voice of artists, artisans and villagers, and also the video of 2 or 3 or 4 dimension of the ritual and art and living production activities, etc. And actually, I am not the specialist in the field of digital technology, and I don't want to mention about this, but I can write and with the maximized information profile of the heritage, so we can apply in various fields. That is research, conservation, restoration, reconstruction, in case of architecture, exhibition, especially in the context of COVID-19, and it is easier to access the people from the long distance and around the world. And education is very, very important, as I experience, and communications also. And the database is easy to store and transfer and access. And I think it is also can resolve the problem of economic also. Next, please. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay. Okay, now, there is some point that I would like to note, and I hope can discuss more with you later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The topic of how to deliver digital content, it's really relevant, and I hope that several ideas will come out from our collaboration in the future. So, Le, if you want to.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Chung. The Ethnic Museum of Vietnam is one of the top attraction sites in Vietnam, and I hope that with the development of digitization, it would get better as well. Yeah, thank you. And to the last presentation of the first session, I want to introduce the topic, digitalizing the scientist's heritage, the case of the Nishimura project. and it is presented by Mr. Do Cheung Giang, head of the Department of Information and International Cooperation, Institute of Imperial Citadel Studies, and Mr. Trần Văn Quyến, a researcher at Thăng Long University, Vietnam. Welcome, Mr. Giang and Mr. Quyến.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Lê, for introducing us.
Yeah.
Can you see me? So my name is Do Cheung Giang, and I am the head of the Department of Information and International Cooperation at the Institute of Imperial Citadel Study in Hanoi, and I will join with the Trần Văn Thăng Long, and we are here on behalf of the Simura project member, and we are talking about the topic on digitalizing the scientist heritage, the case of the Nishimura project. Next, please. Next slide, please. Dr. Nishimura Masanari is a Japanese archaeologist who is very famous in Vietnam because he studied and did archaeology in Vietnam for decades until he passes away sadly in 2013. It means that's 8 years ago. And during his career in Vietnam, he has spent many years for excavating many important archaeological sites in Vietnam. For example, the Luy Lâu in Bắc Ninh, the Thăng Long Citadels, and the ceramic kilns in Chu Đậu in Kim Lan, and also many sites in central Vietnam like the Hoa Châu Citadels, and in southern Vietnam at the Ốc Eo site. And in recognition of his significant achievement and scientific contribution, his colleagues and students have been conducting the Nishimura project for many years. Next slide, please. For the phase one of the project was implemented from the 2013 to 2020, and his wife, Dr. Noriko, and his colleagues and students had undertaken many important work in commemorating his career. For example, in 2015, an international workshop was organized in Singapore and discussed about his archaeological work in Vietnam. The project also published his important work on the ancient citadel in Vietnam, and also especially publishing a book and a research work on the Châu Tân shipwreck in Quang Ngai province, which is belong to his final important project in central Vietnam. And one of the important result of the first project is that his wife, Dr. Noriko, decided to transfer all of his private library and book to the library of the University of Social Science and Humanity at the VNU in 2017. Next slide, please. And from 2021, the project Nishimura will begin the phase second with the effort to digitize his entire scientific legacy. And the members of the project aim to complete the database and post all the database on the official website of the Nishimura project. And due to the breakout of the COVID-19, the project has been slowly, and we started some other work from the distance. For example, we have created the official fan page of the Nishimura project on the Facebook, and And we also working with our partner and our friend from the 3D art companies. They had generously provide us with with some important support. For example, they support us with the website, the hosting, and we will help us with the scanning of the object for the virtual museum in the future. And for this second phases, we try to digitizing the exhibits at the Kim Lan Ceramic Museum in Hanoi and the Chotan Shipwreck exhibition in Quang Ngai province. And they are two important sites and exhibits that are closely connected with Nishimura's career. And he has spent many years studying ceramic in Kim Lan and Chotan shipwrecks until he passes away in 2013. We also try to digitize and classify catalog and post on the website the published research work of Nishimura, and also the incompleted document prepared by himself. We also try to scan and post online the artifacts that related to his career and his work during his life in Vietnam. This project is carried out in an effort to widely publicize and spread the scientific research achievement of Nishimura and approach this as a kind of the scientific and intellectual heritage. Next, please. Next slide, please. Why doing this? Why undertaking this project? We, the core members of the project, are facing with challenges. For example, we face with the financial difficulties because in the first year, I mean that right now at the moment, the budget for the project is 0, and we all the members are contributing to the project by our own efforts and our own budgets. And also, the second challenge is a geographic distancing. While most of the core members of the project based in Hanoi and Japan, many sites related to Nishi activity are in the central and the southern region of Vietnam. And therefore, we figure out our direction for the project in the next 2 years. We try to build a network of the volunteers in Vietnam, Japan, and around the world, who was a friend and colleagues of Nishimura and who could help out with undertaking the parts of the project. For example, contribute the photo, the video, or the artifact prepared by Nishimura. Secondly, we search for the financial support and sponsors to maintain the website, the hosting the server in the future, and also for the publishing the books. And finally, one of our ambitious goal is to establish the Nishimura Foundation to sponsor the finance for emerging scholars in the field of archaeology and heritage in Vietnam, and just a good way for people and the archaeologists in Vietnam. We remember Nishimura. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation of Dr. Do Chiu Giang and Mr. Trần Văn Quyến. It is very helpful to transfer or digitizing the heritage of scientists, for example, an archaeologist in this case. Yeah, and the work sounds interesting and inspiring. Thank you. And it is the last presentation of the first session, and now we will go to the general discussion. Please, Mr. Antio.
Yes, I will start this session with actually introducing 2 questions that were typed in the chat. I think the first one was directed to Ha Le. It was a question on the wood blocks, and the question is if some of them are also in the Han Nom script.
Yes, that wood blocks coming from the Nguyen dynasty all of them was printed with Sino script, but in reverse way, so that after it printing out onto the paper, so we can read it in right direction. So it's in Hannom. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And the second one, I think, was directed to Sofiani or Gladys. I'm not sure. I think anyway, the question is about the databases that you're working on, if they are for general public or just a closed resources for researchers and professionals.
So I think that the database is for me.
Still for you, still for you.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah. Okay. Those database is as a result of the fund of the fund from our government. So they are generally is public for research for both used by research for researcher and profession. Yeah, we post them all online, and then you can go there to let me type here http VN. So all of them are online. Yeah, you can go there and download it. It includes some hundreds of intangible video, some dozen of 3D model, some 3D animations, and 3D model from Vietnam National History Museum. Yeah.
Okay,
You can go there and download it.
thanks a lot. Yes, for those who cannot see it, the link is in the chat. I take the chance also to anticipate that all the information that will be collected today will be put in a report that we will share afterwards in a Basecamp group. So there will be the chance to keep going and sharing information and deepen the knowledge about the many different projects. Is there anyone who from the audience, from the public, who wants to direct any question or even a comment on what has been presented? Just feel free to take the word. See if there are questions. All right, here it is. Well, two questions for Andres.
Okay.
Can you read them?
Yeah, questions to me. I appreciate the focus on the free open source software project. Project is in Ho Chi Minh City in collaboration with other university in Saigon. We would like to engage you. Sure. Yeah, I'll be happy to work together with you. Currently, I'm just working with the Hanoi Museum, and we try to basically use whatever. I mean, we have the technology at the university, but we're just worried about organization. They don't have the manpower sometimes, and also certain technology might cost a lot. So we try off with just really basic technology, things that you have every day at home or at work that you can use to set up. Even if you see the slides, right? We actually we initially wanted to use like special lights, but we found out that yeah, it's still possible to just use natural lighting to take photographs. So from there, once they gain confidence, right? Yeah, they can move on and do more things, and we can do more stuff. For a start, I think it's really good. So yeah, sure, please contact me. And I think can we get to the last slide? Yeah. So that's my contact there. My email is there, and you can write to me, and I'll be more than happy to reply back to you. Last one. How long does it take to construct 3D model in your project? Okay, this is a very good question, right? So basically, when you take the photograph, right, we take photographs like from 50 to 100 photographs, and what happens is you then take the photograph and feed it into the computer with the appropriate software, which is photogrammetry software. This is what I noticed. If your computer is powerful, it will run basically about 3 hours. But if your computer is on average, it runs about 8 hours. So basically, it's quite long. So it's always best that you take the photos, and then after that, before you go to sleep, you feed the photos into the computer, let it run, and you see it tomorrow. But the problem is, like, the next day, sometimes you get a good surprise, sometimes you don't. I switch on the video, sorry, I better switch on the video. So sometimes you get a surprise the next day, because when you process the photographs, right, it always is not perfect, especially when there are a lot of details, and it all depends on the photographs that you're taking as well. So that is another challenge where the result is not always what you want once you've waited for 8 hours or so. Okay, so that's the thing that we have to address and also learn day by day. All right. One problem consuming a lot of time in the quality of taken pictures where the boundary of the object is not clear. So yeah, I think what happens is, if you're gonna share your work in online, right? We basically, that's what we were thinking. I mean, unless if you really want to let people zoom in really closely, right? Then you want to use DSLR and also raw images. But I think since it's going to be just displayed online, and maybe some people are just watching it from their mobile phones, I think that it's using a phone camera itself is sufficient, and also setting a certain amount of polygons so that it's not so high, because we are not going to use it for high rendering. It's just basically used for presenting online. Then yeah, not all computers will take 8 hours. Like I mentioned earlier on, if you have a computer that has a high CPU and also a GPU, which is the processing unit, the graphics processing unit, it can be faster as well. So, but you have to understand also, not every organization would have powerful computers in their organization. So we use whatever that we have.
Thank you very much for this interesting conversation. And
thank you.
Yeah, I think because we are running a little bit late, there is maybe this last question. I would like to know, what are necessary stakeholders relevant to this digital heritage conservation project in general? So what is the role of stakeholders? Does anyone want to reply to this question?
I might just answer briefly. One thing that we were noticing when we were talking to some of the organisations was the challenge in intellectual property, because sometimes, particularly when you're dealing with communities, there's multiple stakeholders, and working out who has the copyright and can give you permission. So that's not always that clear. So that's kind of highlighted another aspect that goes into this in terms of policies around copyright and IP.
Thank you, Michelle. Questions are still flowing, actually, and it's nice to see Professor Gomez. Welcome. Nice to see you again in this occasion. The question is, what is the cheapest way to digitalize archives with text recognizing apps? Huh? Yes?
Yep. So I'm from the technology guy. So what level of digitalized do you want? So you just did like taking a picture, or you want to transform it into some readable data? It's still a general question. So it's not easy to answer. But the cheapest way is that you have any kind of camera, then you can take a picture of that. And if for text recognizing, you can use some OCR application. And it still depends on which language you want to use. English is easier, but Vietnamese is somewhat difficult. And it still depends.
Thank you. So I really think we have to move on right to the second session. It's nice that there is this very active conversation. And yes, please, let's move.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Antio. And there's one comment from Do Trường Giang to thank Associate Professor Ha. And he would want to receive more collaboration for his Nishimura project. Yeah, and I'm sure that the projects like the ASEAN Heritage Digital Archives or the Kachin Life Stories project, or the project of the project that IMIT is running in Vietnam, and the care of digitization of heritages in the ethnic culture museum of Vietnam, for example. All of the projects would collaborate with each other and share the resources for better improvements. Yeah. Thank you for all the presenters of the first session. And now we will want to move to the second session in digital preservation and education of cultural heritage perspectives from Europe. And we will want to invite the two chairs of the second session, Mr. Paolo Russo, President of the Greg Lab, Foligno 4D in Italy, and Associate Professor Lê Thanh Hà, Head of HMI Lab in Vietnam, at Vietnam National University, Hanoi. And welcome the two chairs and all the presenters of the second session.
Thank you very much, Le, and it is an honor and a pleasure to be here. So thank you for inviting me. And we are a bit behind of our schedule, so I will be very, very quick in introducing myself, and maybe my co-chair, Professor Ha, will want to do the same for people who arrived later and couldn't follow his presentation at the beginning. So on my side, I'm the president of the CRHAC Lab, Foligno 4D in Italy, and we are an NGO, so it's a volunteer organization, and our goal is to create addition in the young people to innovative thinking. So our name is a bit of a joke, of course, and also in doing that, in creating addition to innovative thinking, also we train them to the not yet existing careers that they will have to experience, they will have to choose in the future when they will start working in a few years from now, after the digital transformation is changing the world as it is today while they are studying at school. So basically this is what we do, and of course part of our job is to explore, to discover new things. So that's why I am very excited to start this collaboration with the Vietnamese and Asian world, that it is very new to us, and I loved what I saw this morning. Maybe Professor Ha, do you want to say something about yourself and HMI too?
Yes. Thank you very much. I'm already introduced myself and HMI Lab in the video. However, I will tell again just a little bit to save time. My name is Ha, Lê Thanh Hà. You just call me Ha, like your laugh, ha ha ha. So that is. So my lab is HMI, a lab of the Vietnam National University, one of the largest universities in Vietnam. Our lab is focusing on building the model and algorithm and technological for some business, including the humanity, especially for the heritage, digitalize the heritage. So our lab has been working on some projects funded by government, funded by Europe, funded by some private sector. So there are some outputs, some results that all of them whenever we have permission, we put them on all of them on the internet, so everyone can access and can build their own application. So this is what I have introduced. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So it is my pleasure now to introduce somebody who already saw this morning, my good friend Alteo Valentini. He's the general manager at EGINA, and today he will introduce EGINA's and European activities in digital preservation and education of cultural heritage. Please, Alteo.
Thank you very much, Paolo. And I also promise I will be quick and just give you some infos about EGINA. EGINA is the European Grants International Academy. It's a company that I've started several years ago, and it is now very active in the preparation, design, implementation of European projects, mostly funded by the Erasmus Plus program. So we work a lot with education, and our main interest is to implement activities that join together digital innovation with social impact, that for a very high percentage includes also cultural heritage. You can go to the next slide, please. These are the projects that we are carrying out at the moment, ongoing projects. As you can see, the main topics are digital competencies, sustainable development. We work a lot with Agenda 2030 of the United Nations and the 17 goals for sustainable development. We also try always to include entrepreneurial skills such as creativity, problem solving in all the projects that we implement. And again, cultural heritage and social innovation are the most important topics for us. In my presentation, I'm listing all the projects that we are carrying out in the field of cultural heritage. Maybe I can mention now two main projects. One is Silver. Silver is a project in the field of higher education where we have developed curriculum for university students together with the University of Pamukkale in Turkey, University of Bari in Italy, and Alto Douro in Portugal for the digital preservation and exploitation of local intangible cultural heritage. For anyone who is interested, the course is almost finished, and now we will be able also to share with other universities. Second project that is very relevant, and it's somehow connected with what Professor Stan was mentioning about digital inclusion, is Axisi, a project where we are trying to identify several key terms to make cultural heritage accessible to people with different type of disabilities using the easy to read language. Next slide, please. And here it comes, 3 slides about Europeana. While working in the field of cultural heritage, I had the chance to join the Europeana Network Association in order to share information and experiences with colleagues from Europe and also outside Europe. I really liked the community, and I had a chance to be invited first and then elected as the chair of the steering group in the educational branch of the Europeana Network Association. As you can see, the three main priorities are about cultural heritage, are usability, mutual exchange, and reliability. Can you go to the next one? The best way to learn about what we do in the field of education at Europeana is to join our groups on social networks, because these are also open to all those who don't want at the beginning to become members. But I can tell you that if you start joining, you will see many interesting activities, and because becoming members is free of charge, there's no application fee, you will definitely be interested to join the community. And you can go to the last one. What we do, the main activities we carry out every, well, one is permanent and now another one takes place every year. Our portal offers hundreds of learning scenarios produced by professionals, especially teachers or museum operators, who have actually exploited the very huge collection of multimedia cultural heritage elements that we host at Europeana in educational activities. So this is very interesting because you can explore activities that have been already implemented, and in the learning scenarios you will also learn about tips to improve the educational value of cultural heritage, and also obstacles that may arise with different target groups. Second activity is the MOOC. There is a MOOC that you can enter. It's available at the moment in 5 European languages: English, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, and French. And this course brings you, it lasts 40 hours, and it's very practical, and it will let you discover all the different Europeana opportunities for education. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Matteo, and I'm sure that all the audience would be very excited to explore both what Egina does and especially Europeana, which is really one of the most relevant European projects in the cultural heritage. And now it's up to Professor Ha to introduce the next speaker, I think.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paolo. Now I would like to invite Martin Gomez from Lyon, who have studied on geography of music in a World Heritage City, cataloging and mapping the anthropology and history of music. Please come.
Hello. Today we are going to talk about mapping musical heritage, specifically the case study of the World Heritage City of Cáceres. Next, please. Thank you. The objective of this workshop aims to gather expert reflections and practice on mapping and digitalizing musical heritage from a case study in the city of Cáceres, Spain. On this session, after the presentation, we love to have a feedback for you, maybe knowing another project or application that you may be working. If you want to know more about how we are working with an application like MapHub for mapping and navigate, please watch our video about, whose links are in the document sent in the seminar organizing committee. Next. Our approach on musical heritage of anthropology of music, we can start with this definition from Gomez Cairo, that are complete and concrete. it make mention of various musical items like musical words, musical instrument, technicals, manuscript scores, etc., and stand out their technological and historical value. Next. This definition is exhaustive, but still leaves out other relevant items as music venues, emblematic places for having been recorded in classic songs, such as Abbey Road from the Beatles or Calero Street in the traditional music in the city of Cáceres. Next. Our inspiring project in this research and the application we are doing are Europeana, Doremus, doing reusable music data, and Madrid Music Map. Watch the video and contact us. Please.
Research group, cultural, musical heritage, culture and education. So we are very aligned with you and very happy to see you again, Alteo and colleagues. Very happy to be here. I'm very willing to collaborate in any project dealing with musical heritage, cultural heritage digitization, cataloging, mapping. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Okay, perfect. So it is my pleasure now to introduce the next speaker, and so I am introducing Dr. Milena Dobreva, associate professor at Sofia University San Clement Orisky. I hope I pronounced it correctly, from Bulgaria. And she will tell us about museums and their big data, so the innovation labs to exploit this treasure.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone who is in Europe, and good afternoon to all colleagues in Vietnam. Congratulations for organizing such an interesting forum. I had several years of experience with the International Conference on Asian Digital Libraries, and I always found it very fascinating to see what's happening in Asia. I'm also a member of the management board of the Europeana Network Association. So I will very briefly mention the topics which you could explore more in the video, and you are very welcome to get in touch with me. Basically, if you could go to the next slide, we have these days lots of sources of big data in museums. Could you please go to the next slide? One of the big sources, of course, is the mass digitization efforts in many institutions, where we have very sizable collections and objects which are quite huge in size with the advancement of 3D models and methods for 3D digitization. But in my presentation, I looked in more details into additional sources of big data, which come from new research methods like using satellite images to discover potential excavation spots, which can bring more objects to our collections. This is big data because these are huge collections of images. I looked also at data analytics, which analyzes what users are doing in our collections. I looked at the connection to external sources, which becomes more and more important, and also to user-generated and contributed content, which expands our collections. So how we can handle this situation in which we have multiple digital collections which are presented in different formats, and what can we do with this? Can you please go to the next slide? One reality check was the pandemic, an unfortunate situation in the world, but actually it showed how quickly which institutions are able to deliver more in the digital domain. UNESCO did a very interesting survey of how museums responded to COVID, and this also provides an indication what was the basis which was used. In this diagram, which is also available in the presentation, and it's taken from the UNESCO report, we could see that the museums in different continents reacted quite differently to the COVID crisis. Some were just using the already digitized resources. Some engaged more in social media. Some developed special activities, something which was not very strong in Asia. And that's showing us that there is a lot of space for improvement. Could we go to the next slide? As takeouts from my presentation, I think it would be great if people could think what they could do more in this domain. So we have the layer of additional skills which are needed, and we work quite a lot on this in Europeana. But there is also the questions each institution can explore, and this is what can be done to improve the delivery of different content, what can be done in the digital world to improve the engagement with different audiences, possibly what digital exhibitions can be explored. This was also one of the trends developed in museums by museums more during the COVID times. And also the last question, which is very fascinating, what special programs can be organized? Many institutions which have to deal with big digital collections arrange a special unit, which can be called in different ways. In many cases, these units are called innovation labs. Sometimes they're called data or research labs. And these labs are exploring what more can be done to connect the users and the collections better. I'm not going into any detail here because there is a book in English and 4 other languages, which is freely available. And I think that's basically what was my message. We can always think and explore how we can do more to present our heritage to more audiences. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Milena, for your intervention. And as I could see until now, there are really many ways to combine all that we heard this morning, and there is really a lot of space for collaboration among the people present here today. And so again, my co-chair Ha will have the pleasure to introduce the next speaker.
Yeah, thank you very much. So next, I would like to invite Kelly Figuran from Iran, who will give a talk about the digitization of the National Folklore Collection, University College of Dublin. Please.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And I just want to really extend a warm thanks and gratitude for being invited here to this event this morning here in Europe and in the afternoon in Vietnam. So thank you. The next slide, please. I was at the end of the day, so you never know how these things are going to run, and it's just been exemplar in how this conference has been going this morning. And of course, always coming at this point, I'm thinking so much about the previous presentations, and there's so much that has been shared here this morning, not least of all from the previous speaker. Now, I wanted to just give a very brief kind of introduction. I don't know how many of you are familiar with DPECH.ie, which is the website of the National Folklore Collection's online material. And I suppose this is very much a large repository of material that is in the process of being moved online. And I suppose a lot of questions I would like to raise is when you have, again, millions of pages of manuscript material that was collected in a previous time, when you bring it into the new medium, no different than the move from any other medium, from manuscript to the print material or what have you, what are the questions that we need to ask ourselves in order to maintain the integrity or an understanding or the continuing understanding of that time? And I find it quite interesting. So much has come up today because it's not trying to stifle new ways of looking at the material, but it's all of that. So really, as you could see in my presentation, it was very much a descriptive presentation of what type of material is in the archive, in the physical archive. How has that been transferred into the digital space? How is it arranged? Questions that we have at the moment is the kind of indexing, the searching, the aspects of metadata around the material on the archive. And it's already been brought up so eloquently this morning, the difficulty of intangible culture in how we describe it, what gets lost in that. I still think there is a lot of work to be done. And again, referring to previous speakers, the ways in which we present this material, how we engage with it, how we bring others to engage with this material are all wonderful things coming to us. And again, I'm just really looking forward. Anyone could please contact me if you're interested in any further information, but I just really wanted today to introduce the collection and introduce myself, and thank you for being here today. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kelly. So what a huge collection. So I think that a lot of audience will take very interested in your talk. So the last one I want to invite Paulo, who is the chair of this session, will bring to us a very interesting topic about the digital monument challenges.
Thank you. You took me out of the embarrassment of inviting myself as the last speaker. And thank you. We can move to the next slide already. Thank you, since I already introduced the Crack Club at the beginning. Okay, I will be very short. The video is 10 minutes long, so you have plenty of time to explore more. We are an organization that works really on field with the younger people to try to give them orientation, to make them think. But all of this starts from a very theoretical idea and from a very important problem in our opinion, which is how can we help the younger generation to transmit their digital culture to the next, to the following generations, and using digital tools. There are two problems. One is that we are living in a continuously accelerating world, and the analytic paradigm that we have been using in the last 3 centuries to build just everything is showing its limits, because it works well, but it is slow. So it's no longer working so well, especially for education in an accelerating work. And this is one problem. The other problem is that everything digital is very volatile. Making the young people think, okay, you have to build now a digital monument to transmit what it is important to you, to people living 1,000 years from now is really a very thought-provoking challenge that works very well, and help also them to start thinking in a long term, to long term, and also along the way, it gives also us the way to train them on some of the that yet to come jobs of the digital cities, posing them in front of very new problems. Now, again, there is the video to explain more. In this slide, you can see some digital ghosts. This is something that works quite well because we engage younger people from, in this case, from Foligno, from these pictures, to discover their tradition and to haunt buildings with their digital ghosts that in augmented reality can be summoned by visitors, by other peoples, and in time they keep building layers of knowledge, of stories about that place that are also an expression of a contemporary people, of the way they live their places, their monument, that spots of their city. So we find that this digital monument framework, conceptual framework, is very effective in provoking thought, and hopefully, as we already collaborated with other organizations in Europe to create a European challenge, the Europa Square Challenge, to build a digital monument about the transcultural nature of Europe, well, I hope that we will be able to do the same also in Vietnam, in Asia, and in any other place where somebody will be wanting to work with us. So thank you for your attention, and the microphone is back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paolo. And I think that while watching your video and some other video, I'm still, you are right that it is tremendous how to digitize everything, just every short period of humankind. So I'm very agree with you about that. So it's very huge job and very difficult to do. So we need all to work together, right? Yeah. So now we are moving on to the discussion for the second session. So as like the first session, we may welcome 2 questions for each talk. So let me read. Let me see in the chart. First, so here Luan Le asking that, thank you for your sharing. Have you ever considered how much energy how much energy do such platform products consume regarding the website development and maintenance, saving the products in the digital formats? So that question may go to I think that is kind of technical questions, right?
Well, if you want, I can give a partial answer, because also we are working right now on with another organization on a project called Good Deeds. It's this digital efficiency, digital energy efficiency designer, because we are very well aware that the digital industry is one of the less conscious about energy consumption. So all these digital constructs that we build to preserve heritage or to do any other thing consumes really too much energy. Just to give a couple of numbers, the blockchain, which is all the rage right now in the technology field, as it is today, that the industry consumes 8 times more energy of the whole France. And of course, this is not sustainable. So if you ask, are you aware about how much energy all this consumes, the answer is too much. We have to reduce it.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I have found another question from Stan Tambio. The question is that, what are the methods you folks adopt to engage the community, in particular the persons with physical disability community, for your digital inclusion project? So I
think that this could be related to the Axisi project that I mentioned for disability. Let's say that Axisi, it's a project mostly focusing people with mental disabilities, and the easy to read language actually identifies very simple icons and simple graphic elements that can in a way simplify the more complex context and context of cultural heritage. So this is the solution in the Axisi project. For physical disabilities, what I'm fascinating from is the use of augmented and virtual reality to let people with physical disability experience somehow the same feelings and opportunities that other people without disabilities may have. This is something that I would really like to work on in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much. So one more technical question from Nhung Le, but in fact some of us have answered, but I just read it here. For technical professionals, is there an economic way to build a website of introducing collections and material, audio, video, in 3D format, or research and education purpose? Do you have any suggestions? Thanks. So I have answers myself to her on the chat. So we have message from Chung Phạm. Silent dialogue exhibit of Swedish National Museum of Ancient History is very impressive experiences in all in dark, but more works for the other senses. So I think that this comment will go to Kelly, right? Sweden.
Sorry, Harry. You cut out on me there.
It's just a comment. It's not a question.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's about the Swedish. From Trân in Hoa Sen University. Maybe this is outside of the scope of this conference, but I am interested in how digital technologies might be used with regard to the issues about restitution of cultural objects to Asia that were taken to Europe during the colonial times. Yeah, that is a big question. I think that our top-notch European guys can answer.
Here, well, probably Paolo can build on this, but I would just want to mention something that we have carried out at European level, a project which is called Crowd Dreaming, where we have developed a methodology to let young people, thanks to other young people from other countries, about a piece of culture that is now, let's say, visible and integrated in their culture, but it comes from another culture. And I think that this question and this topic that you're bringing could really work very well in a project bringing together cultures from different parts of the world and the social cohesion initiatives at local and international level. So maybe, I don't know if Paolo wants to add something about crowd dreaming.
Oh, yes. Well, you already shared the key concept, and really, yes, I think that with this crowd dreaming approach, we could contribute with a little bit to this huge problem of restitution of objects that has been stolen from their native places. My thought about this is, of course, this is something out of our hands because it is too big a problem. But if we work to create a culture, a mindset where cultural heritage is not made of objects, rather than it is made of processes, exchange processes between nations, between population, between communities, I think that we can move think a little bit forward and come closer to the day when also the politicians who are in charge of make these agreements will start thinking about giving back the art to the places where it was originated and it belonged. But really it is a long process and we have to invest in culture. And this crowd dreaming project, again, it engages schools, and we might explore, as we mentioned in a previous situation, there is a Vietnamese community in Italy, for example, and it could really make sense to explore for the cultural exchanges between Italy, in our case, of course, I'm from Italy, and Vietnam to search to build something analogous to the Europa Square. This Thanksgiving process that we created for Europe. I tried to be short, but it is not in my nature.
Yeah, thank you both very much. Yeah, one question from Lê to Kelly. How are your students in folklore are contributing to the DPECH database?
Thank you, Thailand. Yes, at the moment, the current students aren't necessarily contributing to it due to just the backlog of even getting the material online. We've only recently started bringing up more of the main manuscript material onto the site. And again, that's going from 1935 to about 1970. And then there's still material collected after that point. So in the future, we definitely envision that. And we also would envision further kind of crowdsourcing or more participatory ways in which members of the community could contribute material to it as well, so that it does recognize the living archive that we wish it to be.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, it's an interesting experience. Yeah.
So one more question to Kelly from Anita Bomba. I would like to know if DPECH includes Irish music scores, recordings, or videos.
Yeah, thank you for that question as well. There is quite a number of music scores that were created again in the 1930s and 40s by collectors. And in particular, there are transcripts that are important because there wasn't a recording of the music. And those have been digitized, and the metadata is being applied to them at the moment, but I don't think they've gone live yet. But please stay in touch with me. And if anyone's interested in that, things have happened. There's been some kind of old school publications of that material, but we're still working for it to go online.
Yeah, thank you. One question from Michael Tikyu from RMIT University. Has anyone been using AI to work with their database? So yeah, I'm a guy in here, so I can answer this question. 3 years ago, we got a project from our government. So in that project, we have to build a small AI to distinguish the dance style in our traditional folklore dance. The database we was recorded by the motion capture, and about 70. It's not big enough to change the AI. So we initially use that, and then we use that for the action recognition on that database. And now one of our ongoing projects is that we will apply AI to reconstruct the lost wood block, printing wood block from the Nguyen Dynasty. So that we are going to use the AI with our database. Anyone else use AI? Yeah. So, yeah, I myself have a question to Angel. Yeah, while watching the video, was very interesting. So we got the same problem when we want to build the same project like yours, Yopena. So one of the main problem is that digital heritage coming from many resources, libraries, museum, and theaters. So we still have to serve the copyright or intellectual properties. So how do you do with that problem in your system?
Is the question for me? Sorry, I didn't get it. Yes?
Yeah, yeah.
Copyright is a beautiful beast, let's say. I mean, in Europeana, there is a community, a sub-community that is working very hard on identifying new ways of applying copyright to collections. At the moment, in the platform, it is clearly stated whenever you search for a specific element that could be any type of item available in the archive, it is clearly stated if and how you can use it. Also, if there is what type of copyright has been attached to that specific item, and how users can use them. For educational purposes, the platform has been improved a lot during the last years, and now it's possible to find collections that are completely free of use. So you don't really have to care once you access these specific collections about mentioning the author or anything else. What is important is create the awareness in young people and in anyone actually, but especially in young people, that if you are working, studying, or for any reason using a piece of cultural heritage, this one has a story that also includes and exploiting it. So I really like the new approaches that are called social copywriting, where it's not more the copyright issue, it's not more linked to the economical preservation of the cultural heritage, but it's more related to the recognition of all those who have contributed to the realization of that heritage.
So it means that we should separate the economical problem with the contribution favor, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Although I still have 2 more questions to the rest of the of the presenter in our session, but our time is very limited. So if anyone have question to to the speakers, please contact to them, and they may answer after this seminar. Okay, so in this session we have seen 4 very wonderful seminar talks from the top-notch presenter in Europe. So we in ASEAN, especially in Vietnam, in HMI Lab, we have learned a lot from you, and I do hope that you will help us in the developing countries to save our heritage. Yeah, thank you very much. So let's move on to session 3, right?
Yeah, thank you, Paulo and Ha, for chairing the second session, and thank you every presenters in the second session include Paulo and Georgia and Anteo and Professor Martin Gomez and her PhD students, and Professor Milena Dobreva, Professor Kelly Fitzgerald. Yeah, thank you everyone for very interesting thesis. And now to prepare for the third session, I would want to invite Ms. Bianca Bisiak from Egina to introduce you about the tools that we are using for discussion. Welcome, Bianca.
Thank you. Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. I would like to extend my true pleasure of being here today and being able to support this amazing and stimulating group. So I'm going to share my screen. And I will introduce you to the platform that we are going to be using in the last session. In a couple of minutes, we are going to be divided into rooms, and each room will receive a link that will be useful to jump in basically into this platform that is called the Miro. I will be very quickly introduce the board, so everyone will know what is going to happen in the next 20-25 minutes. So as you can see, Miro is a virtual space in which we are going to be interacting, again, sharing ideas. There is going to be a space in which sharing questions, and the link that you will be sent to are going to remain active for 7 days. We thought that this could be a good way of keeping contacts, sharing ideas, and yes, pursuing in this amazing network that is starting to be created today. So basically, as you can see, we are into a virtual space. This is a general overview of the board, of the work that we are going to follow today. We have a chronological attitude. So step by step, we will be following the activities. There is this part, which is an intro, in which I'm going to explain how to use the basic tools that we are proposing to you today. You will have here a start the conversation early card, in which you are free to insert your comments, formal and non-formal comments. Basically, we are going to use today sticky notes. So one thing that is very important, and it is repeated for each step of the way, given the fact that this is such a big forum with many participants, it is really important that you write your name, the name of your organization included, and then you can write on the post-it the content that you wanted to share with the group. And this is going to be really important. You will have a really quick 3-minute session of inspiration. Videos are included, but we are going to ask you not to lose too much time in watching the videos, given the fact that you will be able to enter into the board later on during the week. But the subject consists in augmented reality, virtual reality, light and digital technology, multimedia collection, and artificial intelligence. Miro is a board in which you can include images, pictures, screenshots from different websites, and also multimedia contents. For today, we are going to be just writing, but of course, during the week, you are free to include material if you wish, which is of course the idea, like, I mean, the sharing, it is really important here. So then we'll have a 7-minute session that are going to be dedicated to the sharing of ideas and thoughts and feedbacks after such a great lecture. Next step, which is going to be, as you can see, everything is divided into phases and steps. So these are the activities from start the conversation early to share your ideas. These are the activities that we designed to be pursued in the context of the Zoom breakout rooms, in which we are going to be divided soon. And then you have this asynchronous activity. So this is the activity that we may ask you to follow during the week, in which you are welcome to write, drop questions, or even include material if you wish. So basically, we are going to be divided into 4 rooms. You will have a facilitator. You will find a facilitator in each room that will guide you through the activities. At the same time, we have, as you can see the name here, support. We have a support room. So if you feel that you have any problem on using the board and following the activity, you can stay in the main Zoom room, and Alteo will guide you through the activities in another board. So we are going to share. We are going to be divided into rooms randomly, basically. And once the rooms are formed, we are going to share the link for each board within the room, inside the room.
Okay.
Do you have any questions? We are going to be, sorry, Alteo. We are going to use, I'm sorry, I did not mention, but this we can be supported also in internal rooms by the facilitators. We are going to use sticky notes basically today, which if you can see the toolbar, which is on your left, is here. So you have the possibility to choose the color. Many sticky notes are already placed in the board for you, so that you will write your name, your organization. I'm going fast here now. And then you're going to write what you feel like to. In order to activate the sticky note, you just need to double click inside of it, and the text will automatically, let me show you, will automatically be activated, okay? Do you have any question, Alteo? Did you want to?
I just want to be sure that the session in the rooms will last 15 minutes, right?
Yes, it's going to last 15 minutes. Basically, the intro, the pro tips, and the start conversation early are already covered. So you can straight away jump into the get inspired structure.
Okay, then it will be me. I will send you some minutes before. I will send you a message, and then I will close the room after 15 minutes. If you are all ready, I will now open the rooms, and you will get a notification on Zoom. So whenever you get it, you can access the room. Enjoy the session.